Welcome to Why Your Business is Invisible Online, the podcast that connects businesses online with the people they want to serve. Joining me are my two co-hosts, and here they are.
I'm Jim Filatico. When I'm not helping my clients grow their businesses online, you can find me traveling with friends and family.
Hi, I'm Kelly Biggs, and I'm the AT alien of the group. I love hanging with friends and family, and when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Peloton. I've clocked over 2,000 rides so far.
And I'm your host, John Manatas from Oakville, Ontario, Canada, with my guitar in hand, my Wi-Fi on life support, but always in tune with my clients. Today we are starting with the letter U in Found. And that's for understanding the audience. That's all about conducting thorough audience research to identify audience demographics, interests, online behavior. And then that allows you to tailor your content and your market strategies accordingly and effectively. And developing buyer personas that we talked about yesterday too, to guide content creation, ensuring your message resonates with the specific needs and motivations of your audience. So I think this is one of the most important ones, period. It's your compass, right? Let's face it. If you don't have a compass with your target persona, you're going nowhere. You're just, it's like in golf when you're at the tee and you're looking at the winds and you throw the grass up in the air just to see which way the wind's blowing. Same with target personas. If you don't have that nailed down, and trust me, I've done it before, where I just dove in immediately, got some good general direction on where I should go, and then found out quite quickly that I better redefine the target a lot better than this, because the results just aren't there. They're just generic results. You're not getting a deep dive. So it was early on. I believe it was when I was working with my pharma company. Great company. They work in a very niche environment, and I believe this is why it was the wrong thing to do. When you're in a niche environment. So this pharmaceutical company is focused on becoming the sales department for smaller pharmaceutical manufacturers who don't have their own sales force. So they outsource their sales to specialists like the company I was representing. Anyway, I was so excited to work with this company that I just wanted to get going. And instead of taking the time to really, interview them, and they were anxious too, because they wanted to get moving, they wanted to see results and so forth. But that's not the right way to go. And I didn't dive deep, and I just started, generally understanding who their target customers were. They did tell me that they didn't just want to be local in and around Ontario. They wanted to be national. And so I had that understanding, but that was about it. I didn't understand the behaviors and characteristics that, we have the ability to really target with our content and so forth. That came later. And so, the lesson learned for me was they wanted to be found, and of course, over time they wanted leads. But because they're such a niche type of business, I had to really take the time to understand what type of blogs and posts and content on their website would their customers really appreciate. And I quickly found out that generic posts are useless with this audience. For example, one of the more recent ones I did was about the AI tools that are now available out there in the pharmaceutical industry that allows people in sales to measure all kinds of things way more effectively and measure results and so forth. And that was something, again, that I didn't have a clue about because I was too high level. I was at 30,000 feet instead of being at 2 feet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's a blessing and a curse, I think, with that. Like, having somebody that's niche is almost a godsend for us, right? Because they really do understand specifically who they're going after. And so then once you figure that out,
Yeah, the posts were great after that. Once we started talking about some of the deeper concerns their customers had, it was easier to look through the internet to probe and find very specific posts that would resonate. And then, and you have to go through a lot of the periodicals and magazines that are important to their industry to see what is the latest what are the latest issues that are being discussed by the senior people in their industry, and what are the solutions that are being put out there as well. And then that's the kind of posts they want to see. And the phenomenal thing that I would recommend for everybody is they wanted to contribute as well. So for every blog post we did, the owners would actually give a commentary on their thoughts on that post and the issues and so forth. So that even added even more value to every single post. So yeah, I would recommend that for everybody. If the owners are willing to do it, getting their own little commentary added to a blog post is highly value added, especially for niche industries.
What was the clue from you? Like you said, what was the trigger to make you know, of like what clued you in?
Oh, we weren't moving the needle on the SEO results.
That'll do it.
Because again, they were new to it, so they weren't on page one regardless to begin with. But as we know, it takes time, and I want to at least move from page 3 to page 2, and then eventually we'll get to page 1. Well, things weren't moving. And so the first thing that you think about is, okay, obviously then the things we're posting are too general. They're high level and interesting for somebody who's looking for general information, but most of their clients, they already understand the general. They want to know what are the specific issues and what are the contradictory points that are out there. Like if somebody's saying this, somebody's saying something completely the opposite. And maybe my clients have a position somewhere in the middle that is value added. And so I need to present that on their website in order to move the needle and get their SEO. But I was able to get them to page 1 on quite a few of their keywords, but it took about a year to make that move. But it didn't move at all until I changed strategy. How about you guys?
I have 2 of them, and they're both kind of surrounding elderly care. So one of them was an attorney that did wills and trusts and those kind of things. And his website, the old website he had, was pretty abandoned, and it was very generic. And with talking with him and doing the research, and I think people know this, but if you think about it, when you're doing elderly care stuff, you're not really speaking to or writing about or writing to that elderly person. You're traditionally writing to that person's daughter.
Absolutely.
Not son, but daughter.
Right.
So then you kind of cater everything you're talking about. You're writing about the fears, the frequently asked questions, all those things, the emotions to that persona, which is that daughter. And then when you start talking about social media and those kind of things, that's who you're trying, that's the audience you want to be in front of. Right. And so that's what we did. We wrote content to that. We wrote blogs to that to make sure that we were kind of emotionally tying with that persona, that daughter, that would then be the person that brings that elderly person in for, update a will or, change things, whatever. And the other example I have is very similar, a person that was in elderly medical care, like Medicare help, doing the extra stuff on Medicare and signing people up for that, determining, based on their prescriptions and all that kind of stuff. And again, it was the same kind of situation where it was a fairly generic website. They were writing, again, to the elderly person. But in a lot of cases, there's always somebody sitting next to that person when you have that meeting. And it's usually, the son or daughter. And so again, we wrote the content, we made it more, we didn't have to have the font huge, you know what I mean? Like the Reader's Digest, big font size kind of thing, and which I need now. But but we made sure that we were answering those questions again that the adult son or daughter would have that could then explain to, their mom or dad. So in both cases, and it wasn't like it was this big aha moment with the people because they had been dealing with him for for so long. But to point out that their old websites really weren't addressing it, then, as you start to add the content and stuff, we had the content and stuff, it made a lot more sense to them why we were doing what we were doing. And then when you talk about social media and even emails and those kind of things, you want to make sure that you're doing that. And that's what we did. And it turned them around, as far as, in both cases, it turned them around. And they're in smaller towns, but they grew, and their ranking grew significantly based on that. So yeah, it's been a couple of success stories.
Cool. What were some of the specific things that like a daughter who's helping their mom or father who are elderly? What were some of the specific things you found when you targeted, when you found out what they were and you started targeting them? What were some of the things that made the bigger difference in terms of the SEO results?
I think a lot of it was explaining the expectations that they would have and understanding what they would have, because it's a different perspective. It's like, okay, how can I take care of them and make sure that they keep their dignity? How can I, you don't want to treat them poorly. You know what I mean? You don't want to treat them like they don't understand what's going on. But at the same time, they're going to have different concerns, and they want to make sure that they're not financially hurt. They want to make sure that, like if you think about a son or a daughter, when you're dealing with the will, they want to make sure that they understand what their true desires are of their mom or dad, and make sure, because they may be the person that has to deal with the will, they want to understand it completely and make sure that what they're saying verbally is actually what is written. And so that was a lot of it, was just that understanding and the differentiation between the person that was going to actually have to deal with it later on.
How about you, Cal?
Same as you, John. I would say when I started out, I was just like, buyer persona, tell me who you sell to. They fill out a page. And so, but the more you get into it, the more you realize, the more you can learn about who their servants, what's top of their mind. All of those things is going to make the content much richer. I remember discovering Answer to Public, which is great. That's a tool that you can go in, and the beauty of it helps you to target more about longer tail keywords. So once you do that buyer persona, you can go in and see what people are actually asking, right? So I'll give you an example of, we've talked about COVID a lot through this, because that's basically when we all began.
That's true.
But with COVID, good, bad, or indifferent, funeral homes started to thrive, right? And so, but if you were a funeral home and you wanted to be found online, it's tricky. It's really tricky, right? And so, I would say probably in the past, what would happen is, it's word of mouth. I want this person to be this person, and during that time, and probably now, because people move around so much more, there's more opportunity, I think, for funeral homes if they can understand who they're trying to reach. And so I remember working with a funeral home where land is finite. It's something we don't think about. And so we had a conversation of, I'm trying to show that there are different options when it comes to funeral arrangements for people who maybe not have the money to care for. And so that, like, understanding, like, this is the new persona. Right. So how do we, and at that point, it could have been any age. Like, it really could have at that point, right? Versus, necessary. It was a shift from caring about your parent, but anybody, just about every age range, except for the really young people, were really affected by this. And so then how do we, the challenge that we had was, how do we tastefully show up and target the right people to be found, and show them that actually we do have the volume, we do have the expertise, we will give you dignity. We have not even that. The other shift was, and we have the capability to do it so that everybody doesn't have to be in the room, right? So there was
safely,
There was a shift, if you'll recall, like only close family members were actually at the funeral home. And then you had, Zoom or whatever your web choice would end up being from there. and being able to shift there. Not only that, then after that's over, shift back, right? Like how much of that do we need? How much of it don't we? And then what was also interesting there is there's another unique thing for funeral homes is that they have typically been family-owned businesses. I remember talking to one gentleman, and he was like, I'm going to own this until my mother passes. Like, I will not have this conversation with her because they've built this business, but I don't want to do this. I don't.
Okay.
And so,
Wow.
but I want to be in a position though to be able to sell it down the road. And what was interesting is one of their main components was we're a family-owned business because it mattered. So taking that message and shifting it to who cares about it being family-owned and who doesn't? Like, what's that audience? What is attracting people to you? Who's your ideal client for somebody? Now the ideal client is somebody that wants to take over their business without being overtly saying take over my business. So
Sure. Yeah.
really,
Mm-hmm.
as your business shifts and grows, and this is something I think that people don't think about, right? As your business shifts and grows, so will your need to explore the buyer persona. And when we're doing buyer personas, I like to have like an hour-long conversation where I'm sitting with my clients and I'm just asking them questions about, talk me through your ideal client. What do they like? What don't they like? What do they fear? Sometimes the questions seem repetitive. Even to me, I was like, I just asked you that question, but sure enough, they'll have a different answer.
Different answer. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe this was a good question. Okay, let's continue. But then just having that conversation, right, gets us to, they're like, oh, yeah, that would be a great client. If I had 50 of those clients,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be good.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
great. What makes them good? Where do we need to hang out? Where do they hang out? To your point, Jim, because I think it gives us insight into that question that's always asked, which platform do I need to be on? Well,
Yep.
where's your audience hanging out? Where are they?
Mhm.
I would not advise doing a TikTok for funeral homes. I don't.
No.
Maybe you can be creative, but
I bet you if we looked it up, though, there'd be
I
some.
bet you'd find one. And I don't think it wouldn't be somebody dancing, I don't think, but yeah.
Exactly. In fact, I remember one of our partners telling us, listen, this was a single woman.
Mm-hmm.
She had no prospect of ever being married, but she was addicted to the TikTok of a divorce lawyer because his content was just so good. Like, he would talk about why you need a prenuptial agreement and things of this nature. And she was like, I listen to him every day.
Even though she'll never need him.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, not anytime soon. Not anytime soon, right?
A few other things have to happen first.
Yeah. But anyway, so, unexpected things can happen. But anyway, that's my story.
No, with your story though, I'm just curious. Similar to Jim, I'm always curious. What moved the needle? Like, was there an aha moment? Like, once you nailed down the understanding of their target niche and who's their best target, and it sounds like that was a bit of a moving target. But once you nailed down a few, I guess, of the personas, was there any type of content that really was, aha, this works? Like, this is actually moving the needle that you discovered?
Yeah, it really moved more to the shift. And I don't know if this is true but from my research of the funeral homes that I dealt with, like, they're really more about, you see the picture of the family, who they are, and I think that people do care about who they are, but at that time, that's not the most important thing.
Right.
The most important thing, when we shifted to a more empathetic, losing a loved one is really hard. We understand, it's financially challenging. Like, what are they fear? What do they care about? We have financing options.
Mm-hmm.
We have other choices that won't break you. Moving from that to, oh, we're the best, we've been 25 years in business and we're like, that's not, that was the shift, and being able to move from it. Like, which one are you going to trust more at that point? Right. And especially the one that aligns with where you are. And so maybe that shift, maybe they don't go to the people who are used to this specific family-owned business, but that's fine. They probably weren't searching for them anyway, unless they were at capacity and couldn't accommodate them. But if they were, having some of that, maybe that goes to the second page. By the way, we are family owned, and here's what we reside on the About Us. But it was really more that empathetic and offering alternatives to what those clients were going through at that time. That was stressful to everyone, right? Thinking the whole thing through. We have a touchless funeral, right? Like, that's important. We will give your family dignity, hugely important. You will have a memorandum forever that we're going to record for you, and you can share. People can join you live. Like, just those shifts, you saw that became a tick.
That makes sense.
Plus, you have multiple personas, so to speak. So you can lean into both of those or three of them, and hit the ones that are really family oriented. You can have a page or a paragraph or something about that too. So that way you're not turning your back on that, and you want to make sure you keep attracting that, but then flexing to know that these other things are important at this point, or for the area or for the client base or whatever is what's important. So
that's a great point. Yeah. It's never, I won't say never, but it's never like 100% just one persona. There's always multiple, and our job is to understand, you're going to target this one. Maybe 50% of your efforts are going to be on this one, but the other two are important too, at 25 and 25 kind of thing. And you still have to target them as well, just to get overall great results. When we're targeting personas, I'm not sure if the platforms make any difference.
Depends on what platform you mean. So if you mean like to build a website, I'm going to say no. But if you're talking about social media, I'm going to say absolutely.
Sure.
Right.
So where they're hanging out.
Yeah. So for instance, let's just get specific. I'll call it out. Okay. Let's see how we go. You're targeting boomers and older.
Facebook.
Right. Facebook. And I want to say Facebook, and you may even consider doing some display ads on traditional
marketing
outlets, right? And
sure. Yeah.
You could do some display ads. Okay. You're targeting Gen Z.
Right. Instagram for sure. TikTok there, depending on the business.
Gen Z, exactly. That's exactly. What about, let's go back up. What about Gen X?
Right. The thing with Facebook is not everyone will admit it,
but everybody's
most people are on it.
Everybody's on it.
They won't admit it to their friends.
Yeah.
But so Facebook, it's hard to really define who their audiences are, because they really cater to everybody. It's a lot different than like a TikTok or Instagram or,
I would say Instagram.
Instagram too. I would say Instagram too. Yeah.
Gen X. Their algorithms are good. They're so good. I swear. I'll go on to Instagram, literally either to post something or to check, because I know my friends just went on a fabulous vacation and I want to see about it. Right. And sure, next thing I know, I'm in somebody's checkout line, and I'm like, what have I done? No, I know what this is.
45 minutes later.
Get out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good, and their immediate response too. Yeah, it doesn't take days for them to figure you out. They
right away.
Yeah, they figure right away. Yeah.
And then, so then what about millennials? I think they're on. I think they're on all three. I think they're all.
Yeah, I would think so.
Probably Instagram, TikTok first, and then Facebook.
Probably, yeah.
But because
not as much Facebook. Yeah, my daughter's a millennial, so not as much Facebook.
You got to remember, they started to get off Facebook. They're not public about it, like Jim said.
Right.
You got to remember, they were MySpace
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
like,
right.
you know, so they've touched all of them
Sure.
first, probably.
They've grown with
They've
them. Yeah.
touched all of them first, and they're not afraid of them. So it's probably, if you want to target, probably you can find them anywhere. And we didn't say all of them. That's what Google makes sense to do any of them, because everybody's going to be there for your Google ads. If we're talking about ad building and things of that.
And that wraps up another episode. My name is John.
This is Jim.
And I'm Kelly. Thanks for joining. Hey, don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you for tuning in to Why Your Business is Invisible Online. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do us a favor and subscribe and follow us on Spotify and Apple. Be sure to share it with other business owners who might find it helpful. If you want to dig deeper, contact us at ruinvisibleonline.com. That's capital letter R, capital letter U, followed by invisibleonline.com. Or message us on our LinkedIn business profile with the same title, Are You Invisible Online? The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and may or may not reflect the official policy or position of WSI Corporate. Always consult a qualified digital marketing expert before making significant changes to your online strategy. Until next time, keep connecting with the people who matter most to your business and join us for our next episode.